Karishma, this was my love.
Yeah.
And I decided that in this regard, I don't want to sing Channa Mereya. I don't want to be the guy with the heartbreak.
Yeah.
I don't want to have an unfulfilled relationship with what I've chosen.
Thank you so much for doing this with us. It's also our 9-year anniversary, the day this episode goes live. So we planned it in such a way because it was special, and we can't wait to hear about like life and peace and happiness from you. So thank you for doing
So
this.
grateful, Karishma. First of all, my deep and sincere gratitude for having me over for your podcast here, and my heartfelt congratulations for a 9-year journey.
Yeah, 9 years.
And I feel very privileged and feel very special to be a part of this episode, which is marking the 9-year celebrations.
The
So
9th
thank
year.
you.
Okay, so I'm going to go right in.
Sure.
In a recent interview, you said that you were very spoilt as a kid, right? From being this pampered, spoilt kid to a monk who inspires people around the globe. If you had to describe your story in one line, what would it be?
A conscious choice to grow oneself.
Conscious choice to grow oneself. Yeah.
Because growth is all about a conscious choice.
Correct.
What has happened in the past is not as important as what lies ahead in the future.
Right.
I may have had some conditionings from the past, but we as human beings have tremendous potential to work upon whatever conditionings we have and uncondition ourselves to develop the required new conditionings to go ahead in the future. Don't we therefore say that the windshield in a car, the front glass of the car is way more bigger than the rear view mirror because what lies ahead is more important than what's gone in the past. So yes, I was a pampered child. I never ate anything at home that wasn't made according to my dictates. Not once in my 21 years till I left home.
Wow.
If I asked for something and that wasn't made, I wouldn't eat that food.
And what else about your childhood, that was either typical or different, right? Because I'm just trying to decode the human behind the monk.
Right.
What were you like? Like, what was it like growing up? What was your childhood like? What were your parents like? I know they worked government jobs.
Right.
They obviously must have had a set, like a life that they built for themselves, and they would probably imagine that their children would follow suit.
Right.
So can you walk us a little bit through that?
Yeah. The typical part of my childhood was I was born in a simple middle-class family, very typical, in a Marwadi Jain family. My father worked a job, obviously my mom was a housewife. Just 2 kids at home, me and my younger sister. A very typical middle-class household. Religious in one sense, but not like religious.
Right.
Spiritual in one sense, but not like spiritual.
Right.
Nothing over the top. Like a very balanced, simple, middle-class background. And I would say a very, very lovely childhood.
Yeah.
Just 2 kids, me and my sister, so received a lot of affection. That's probably why I was pampered. I was very privileged to grow up in such a simple background.
Correct.
Because when you move from simplicity to sophistication, you're okay with it. I think growing up in a very simple background and then moving to an ashram where things are simple made it so much easier because I was already used to it.
Right.
And then, of course, over the years, life gets a little sophisticated. Today, you're going all over the place. There's so many facilities, so many privileges. But then because you are used to simplicity, you can handle sophistication.
Correct.
So I think it was less in terms of what we had, but a lot in terms of what we gained. And I do feel what I gained growing up as a child is what probably is the foundation of who I am today. Back in the day, it wasn't a common thing. Today, in the modern world, people are talking about, you can do what you like, you can explore what you like, pursue your passion, you follow what you like, you do this, you do that, blah, blah, blah. But when I was growing up, and especially in a conservative society then, that wasn't all that common.
Yeah.
So I very well remember my family being very supportive of whatever choices I wanted to make. In fact, even my spiritual inclinations were kind of coming from that freedom to explore. So I explored a lot of other spiritual paths which didn't necessarily fit into the stereotype religious
Yeah.
beliefs,
Yeah.
and which would have probably been considered a little out of place then. But they were very open to it. Little did they realize that the freedom they gave me was going to end up like this. But, well, yeah, so they were very different.
So, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was the life that you envisioned for yourself, thinking that, okay, this is the trajectory I'm going to take, and
Right.
this is how it's going to be for me?
Right, right. When I was growing up, there were only three options you had as a career,
Yeah.
for a career.
Doctor,
You could be an engineer,
engineer.
you could be a doctor, or you could be a failure. There are only three things. You're an engineer, you're a doctor, or you're a failure.
Yeah.
Amongst the three, I definitely thought I shouldn't choose to be a failure.
Yeah. So let's pick.
So then I thought, okay, probably maybe I should be a
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah.
And then in my 8th grade, I came across the dissection of a frog.
Yeah. All of us.
And when the frog was being dissected right in front of my eyes, I rushed out of the classroom to go to the restroom and throw up. So doctor was out, failure was out.
You could only be an engineer.
I could only be an engineer.
Yeah.
I, of course, took up the path of being an engineer.
Yeah.
Now, trust me, back in the day, this whole talk about, I want to make a difference, I want to, live a life of purpose, wasn't all that common. You would kind of take the beaten path.
Yeah.
You have certain career paths, that's what you would take. Today, that's not the case, however. But I always love to tell this one story, which is very interesting, something which I'm very fond of. In a school in London, a teacher was asking all the kids, like 7-year-olds, what do you want to be when you grow up? Somebody said engineer, somebody said doctor, somebody said an actor, somebody said a chartered accountant, somebody said a lawyer. One boy, 7-year-old, was taking a while to answer that question. The teacher asked him, well, everybody has answered. Is that how long you take to answer this question? After a pause, he said, well, yeah, I'm taking a little bit of a little time. Once again, the teacher said, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And the boy answered, when I grow up, I want to be happy. The teacher said, look, son, doesn't look like you understood the question right. And the boy said, ma'am, doesn't look like you understood life right. Because if you understood life right, you would know that when you grow up, you want to be happy. Yeah. And I feel when you're happy doing what you do is when you make the most impact.
Correct.
If I'm a motivational speaker and not happy being a motivational speaker, what am I giving to the world? A product, not my joy, not what I truly feel.
Or not the real
Not
you.
the real authentic self.
Yeah.
So if I'm authentic, it makes a tremendous impact in what I do. So of course, it comes with time. I can't say that when I was growing up, I felt that I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to be my genuine self, an authentic self. I took to the beaten path of being an engineer. But then with time, I realized that this is not me.
Yeah.
I can't fit in. I can't just conform. I can't just comply with whatever is just existing.
Yeah.
I need to find my voice and not drown myself in the noise that's going on all around us in society. Yeah.
So when you got into engineering college in Pune, what was, you just said something interesting, I wanted to drown out the noise, right? What were those years like, your engineering years, which are pretty formative
Right.
to the trajectory of like your adulthood?
Correct.
What were those 3 years like? 3 or 4 years, what did you kind of learn about yourself? And can you also tell us a little bit about your normalcy, right? Because it's difficult to imagine a monk as an engineering student playing tricks and pranks and things like that. So if you could walk us through that part of your life.
Sure. Engineering students, the other day I was on a television show and they've asked me, sir, kabhi kisi ladki se mohabbat hui kya aapko? I said, engineering college mein chakkar chalane ke liye time to milna chahiye na. You're just so busy and caught up with doing so much stuff. I said, I just didn't find any time to explore a relationship at that time. And by the time I had a little time, I was so much in love with what I do that I didn't even bother about exploring that side.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 3-4 years of engineering, I would say, passed more in just the academic pursuit of studying and grade. Pretty much cliched. I think we had a group of friends, a good group of friends, and all of us friends, our bit of fun would be sitting, our college canteen was on the banks of a river.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful, yeah. So
Wow.
it was called the Boat Club. So
Yeah.
we would sit there and we would have our favorite samosas and a cup of tea and chat and talk about movies and talk about movie stars and talk about Bollywood songs and talk about Hollywood songs. And pranky, well, I wasn't so much of a pranky guy.
Yeah.
And even the guys, you know what? Your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah.
So since I wasn't so pranky, the guys who came in weren't too pranky as well. So pretty much a normal childhood. I mean, a normal
College life.
time in college. Committed to studying, committed to seeing if my career can get better, a good job. But I would say definitely, as I was doing that, this is the noise around. The noise around is get a job, have a startup, make money, get married, have children. Pretty much what life is for everybody out there in the world, right? So that's the noise. And a lot of times I feel in that noise, somewhere we forget to listen to our own voice. मैं कई बार कहता हूँ हिंदी में कि कुछ लोग जो होते हैं ना, वो अपने सपनों के लिए अपनों से दूर रहते हैं और कुछ लोग होते हैं जो अपनों के लिए सपनों से दूर रहते हैं.
Yeah.
So some people, in order to follow their dreams, they stay away from the people whom they love. And some people, in order to be with the people whom they love, they forget their dreams and their inner voice. So as I was studying, preparing for my exams, looking at the grades, looking at what could be the career options for the future, there was one thing that was definitely happening. That aspect of me saying that, well, I don't want to necessarily give in to the noise.
That was brewing.
That was brewing. That was changing within.
Right.
I don't necessarily want to belong to that noise and listen to that noise.
Yeah.
And that's probably why then this decision came. Right? That I don't want to necessarily conform. I don't want to be just a part of the noise. And I'm not against what people say. Getting married is perfectly fine. Having children is perfectly fine. Building a nice house is perfectly fine. Having a fantastic, well-paying job with a thick, fat paycheck is perfectly fine. If that's not me, if that's not my voice, I felt, hey, I'm not going to do this. Right?
Wow.
I'm not going to do
Yeah.
this. It was revolutionary.
Yeah.
It was radical.
Yeah.
It was taking the road
Less traveled.
not traveled, shall I
Not
say?
traveled,
Not
yeah,
even
not
less
traveled.
traveled.
Yeah.
Shall I say not traveled practically? Taking a big time risk.
Yeah.
But yes, I followed my heart. I followed that voice. Got a lot of flack. Got a lot of opposition from the most loving parents, and I regret that. I'm causing them that pain, having them to go through all what they went through for the decisions I made. And that's where that's where that dichotomy.
Yeah.
To please the ones we love, yet follow your voice.
Yeah.
So hard.
It's a dichotomy.
When you're going to follow your voice, it's going to hurt the loved ones you love sometimes. And when you listen to them, sometimes you kind of drown your voice and you just forget to follow your voice. Thankfully, I think it takes a little while when you still continue to love the ones you love, still try to be the most loving, kind, beautiful human beings with them. Over a period of time, on their part, there is acceptance. After a while, acceptance turns into wholehearted acceptance. After a while, wholehearted acceptance turns into endorsement.
Wow.
And after a while, endorsement turns into wholehearted support. Initially, it was a mess. My parents, of course, did not kind of agree to what I was choosing.
Yeah. What was your first interaction with ISKCON? And the second is, what was that moment that changed it for you and said that, okay, I'm going to give up this well-paying job. I'm an engineer. I've studied engineering.
Right.
I've gotten the job.
Correct.
I've followed a little bit of the path, but it's not for me. And I'm going to take this really difficult, and you said a word, revolutionary decision,
Right.
and actually go do that.
Right.
So I want to understand these two things before we get into how it was broken
Right.
to your family. And
Right.
relatives.
Right. So, I think one aspect was that noise, the voice.
Yeah.
The voice was speaking.
Yeah.
I just decided to listen to the voice, whereas a lot of people ignore that voice.
Correct.
In the world out there, there's a voice speaking within each one of us. I had decided I'm not going to ignore it. I don't want to put it in the back seat. I don't want to put it on the back burner. I want to see what this voice is, right? The second thing was when I took up my job at Hewlett Packard,
Yeah.
I was very good at what I did. I was very, very good at my work, but I wasn't satisfied.
There was a little bit of a itch, like I'm not happy. I'm not there.
I'm not happy at all. I'm going to spend a huge amount of my time at my work. How much time in a day do I actually end up spending with my family and myself in 24 hours? And how much time do I actually end up spending at work? Let's ask all of ourselves this question. How much of my time goes at work? And if my work is just paying me but not fulfilling me, though I was very good at it, I realized one thing. Hey, look, this is something I'm not so good at. I'm good at systems, machines, but my calling is people, working with the lives of people. What was happening? A, not ignoring the voice. B, was this realization, this thought that was dawning upon me that I can't spend my work day like this, just being good at it but not being fulfilled with it.
Yeah.
C was my spiritual calling too. I had a spiritual inclination from my early childhood. I had that spiritual incline, And then when I thought about it, listening to that voice, if I have to quit my job and start exploring what to do, what do I do? If I have to work with people, what do I do? Study psychiatry, people's lives, psychology, people's lives, behavioral economics, people's lives, organizational behavior, people's lives. All of these things have to do with people.
Yeah.
But then I thought that my spiritual inclination, what if I can combine my spiritual inclination with that voice that's saying do something in the space of people? That's when then I thought of exploring spirituality as a full-time option. And when you asked me about that question about ISKCON and what my first experience like, I will never forget that day when I first landed up at the temple. So for me, religion, faith, spiritual institutions, I respect all of that a lot. At the same time, I really don't think it's that really got me in.
Okay.
What got me in was good character of an individual that I first bumped into. I went to the ISKCON temple. This is in Pune.
And this is off a whim. You went to it.
I was invited. Somebody, they called me to
Right.
go there. So I went there. And there was a gentleman who was a monk who had done his, I think his master's from Rice University in the USA, and he was a gold medalist and he's a monk. And there must be something that they've heard inside. They probably have said, I don't want to drown myself in the noise. Let me see if I can listen to my voice. Again, don't get me wrong. None of these accomplishments are wrong. I'm just saying those individuals heard their voice.
Yeah.
Right. So I went to see this gentleman again. And he wasn't there at that time. There's another guy, like a young guy. I asked him, is this gentleman here? He said, well, he's going to be away for another 3 hours. I said, well, I can wait for 3 hours. That's not a problem. He asked me, it was like around 11:30, 12-ish afternoon. He asked, have you taken lunch? I said, no. He said, would you like to take lunch? First I said, nahi, chalega. You know that nahi chalega means chahiye. When you're hungry and it's lunchtime, nahi chalega, chalega. Nahi, you can come and take. Nahi chalega, sir. Nahi, come please. So then I said, aap itna bol rahe to aa jaate. So he walked me into their dining area, and That's where they served their meals, their community kitchen meals. And the worst thing for me that day was every little thing in each one of their pots was over.
Okay.
There's not a single crumb left. And for him, it was a massive embarrassment too that I called him that, come and take a meal with us and there's nothing left. He said, there's enough time for you to wait, right? I said, yeah. He said, I'm really sorry the meal is over. I said, no, you don't have to say sorry, it's all right. He said, but I can cook a meal for you. The guy
Wow.
walked into the kitchen and cooked a meal for me. He cooked a paratha, some 1 or 2 parathas and some aloo sabji. I will never forget that day in my life. Who does that stuff? I'm a random guy walking there, just waiting to meet a gentleman, and this guy saying, come for the meal. The meal is already cooked for me. That matters to me more than everything else that everybody else professes. So I often say, live your life in such a way, the people who don't believe in God but know you will want to believe in God because they know you. This is one of my favorite quotes. It says, I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care.
Yeah.
I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care. And my very first interaction was that of humanity, was that of care, was that of genuine concern, was that of walking the extra mile, was that of doing something that he didn't need to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt very heartwarming, that I went again to that place. So that was my first interaction there.
Wow.
Yes.
And at what point did you decide this is for me? And how did you break it to your parents and your relatives?
My God. It's hard, isn't it? It's like a guy or a girl in love with another guy or a girl. And now they're wanting to make that decision that I want to get married. How does one break that news to family? And especially if the guy or the girl is not from the same community. You know how taboo it is, even in the world today, we can find all of these boundaries set. Karishma, this was my love.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I decided that in this regard, I don't want to sing Channa Mereya. I don't want to be the guy with the heartbreak.
Yeah.
I don't want to have an unfulfilled relationship with what I've chosen.
Yeah.
I ran away to the disappointment of my family and my parents. I did have to take that step.
And how old were you?
21.
You were 21.
21. But that's what 21-year-olds do when they're in love.
Yeah.
Jo bhi ho jaye, pyar hai ye. We have to commit ourselves to that love.
Where did you run away to?
To Mumbai, to our ashram here.
In Chapati.
Chapati, that's where I ran away too.
Wow. The love and the life and everything that drives you, what was that experience? What was that first month? What did you feel?
I come here to the ashram. This is my marriage.
Yeah.
And only to suddenly realize that, well, I love this, but there are challenges to this as well.
Yeah.
The challenges of waking up early in the morning was not a problem because I was always an early bird.
Yeah.
And then sharing space with, then we were about 21 monks.
21.
21.
Okay.
And we had very less physical space.
Yeah.
Sharing, and I never stayed in a dormitory or in a hostel. I always lived at home.
Right. Even
So I
in
wasn't
college.
used to sharing space with somebody else. And now here we were lying right next to each other on the floor, sleeping on the floor inside a mosquito net tent. And I got malaria 8 times the year I joined the ashram.
Oh my God.
8 relapses of malaria. Admitted to the hospital 8 times the same year that I joined the ashram. Oh goodness me! I didn't have a single malaria all my life.
Yeah.
I would fall ill like once in a year. I would get like a cold or fever and probably a stomach upset once a year. That's how ill I was all through my life till I came here. I mentioned to you earlier, I never had a meal which, if it wasn't made according to what I asked for, I didn't eat. And here I am. It's community kitchen meals. You don't have a choice. There's no menu card. You don't have a mom saying, Mama, I don't want this, make this. None of that stuff. They just make whatever they make. You have to eat it. And then back in the day, we were really, really poor in our ashram. Not that we are well-to-do, very well-to-do today, but
Like really perfect standard. Like by comparison.
but back then we really didn't have much. And the kitchen in charge would just go to the market and buy whatever leftover vegetables were there, the cheapest price, and bring them.
Wow.
So practically every day we had potatoes and squash, aloo and bhopla. Stab, what do you eat? Aloo bhopla? Who eats aloo bhopla every day for lunch and dinner? And there's no even varieties in it. There's a similar style they would make it. That was another thing. The meals.
Yeah. And what about the family? So when you're falling ill as a 21-year-old, it's tough, especially like 8 relapses within 1 year.
Yeah.
You want the warmth and comfort
Yes.
of family.
Yes.
So what was that like?
My guru Radhanath Swami often says, a very beautiful thing he says, the warmth of love is way too more important than the light of knowledge. When you are in Chicago, minus 26 degrees, I was in Chicago once, it was minus 26, goodness me, like freezing. When you are in Chicago and it's minus 26 degrees Celsius and the wind factor, the chill factor adds to it, the light of knowledge, imagine all the lights being turned on, it's all well lit up in your house, but the heating's not working. You'll die.
Yeah.
In freezing winter, what you need more than light is warmth. Spirituality is not something that's just dry knowledge. Especially in the ashram that I lived, there's beautiful relationships with friendships. And from the day I came, every other monk and my guru was so welcoming of me that it became a family. They were there to care for me. Every single time I was ill in the hospital, there was a monk by my side, caring for me at all times. Right? So, because of which I could easily pull it off. I often say, distractions are those things that we see when our eyes are off our purpose, off our goals. When our eyes are very focused on what we want to do, then there will be a couple of inconveniences, couple of things that we have to take in our stride and move on. Thankfully, they didn't make me feel there were inconveniences because they were so loving there.
Yeah.
But even if there were, and there were certain inconveniences, of course, food, for example, was what it was. It didn't matter because the eyes were focused on what I needed to do.
From the Geeta specifically,
Yes.
any 3 things that you would like to...
Yeah. The first thing I learned, which was from my guru again, was the value of humility. The world is filled with people who are arrogant. The world is filled with people who are haughty, high-headed, you know. I mean, just because I am a someone or I know someone, I don't have to be arrogant.
Yeah.
I don't have to be unkind to anybody. Right? We are called humankind. And it's important for us to be a human and be kind both.
Yeah.
If we are not human and not kind, why are we even humankind? You know? Why are we called humankind? So the first thing I learned when I came to the ashram was the power of humility. My guru, Radhanath Swami, was from Chicago. He came from Chicago. He was an American. Living a simple life, trying to serve, add value, trying to do simple chores. We didn't have staff. I said we didn't have enough. We didn't have staff. We were cleaning up. We were chopping the vegetables. We were cleaning. We were doing all of that stuff. And here were gold medalists doing that stuff. I was blown away. Because haughtiness and what I know and my talents and my abilities can impress. It can't inspire. Talent never inspires. Talent only impresses. Humility inspires. Especially when I have the talent and I'm still so humble. God, it just creates a mark in your heart. That learning, I kept it with me even till date. It would be too much to claim that I have any humility or anything. But at least know I need to be humble.
Yeah.
I at least know that I need to be grounded. I at least know that I need to be human and I need to be kind. That was one thing that really struck me a lot. The second thing that I learned, like you said, from the Geeta, right, is that there's no right or wrong there. In the world out there, we're constantly right or wrong, black and white. He's good, she's bad. He's this, he's that. Branding, labeling, judging, passing conclusions on people and situations. But that's not reality.
Yeah.
There's so many different aspects between black and white. There's so much gray between black and white, right? And for us to be able to see what that gray is, for us to be able to see how do we adjust to our particular situations there, how do we adjust to people based on their particular situation.
Yeah.
If I were to say right and wrong in the whole Mahabharata, who's right, who's wrong? Bhishma is quiet, Draupadi is being disrobed. Was he right? Was he wrong? It's very easy for me, you to sit here and debate. But do we really understand their space? Do we really empathize? Can we really put ourselves in their space, their shoes? This whole right, wrong thing is killing the world, killing relationships, spoiling relationships. Right, wrong, black, white. Give me a break.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned, and it stayed with me for a very long time. It's still with me, and I try my level best even today to not judge anybody by those external, specifics, and to understand their space, to empathize, to try and see what they're going through. And the third thing that I was so very much inspired by in that verse, and it was all coming from the Mahabharata, because that was a discussion, the Mahabharata and the Geeta, was that each one is so unique, each one is so individual. A Yudhishthir, an Arjun, a Bhima, a Nakul, a Sahadev. No one was trying to be like anybody else. They were so satisfied, so happy, being themselves. Because when you are yourself, you are in your elements. When you're yourself, you're in your flow state. When you're yourself, you reach levels of excellence that nobody else can. The beauty of these five guys, in diversity, all diverse individuals, happy to be themselves and unified by one purpose of doing good. And which is what I learned, being diverse, being yourself. And imagine being surrounded by monks, some of whom came from a better university than I did. I came from the College of Engineering, Pune. They came from IIT, Mumbai. I worked at Hewlett Packard. They worked in the United States for Microsoft. I did what I did. They did what they did. And what if they thought, oh, he speaks and I can't speak like him? The beauty of what we learned in those formative years of our ashram life is being who you are, genuine, authentic, and in all that diversity, finding a common unifying factor, our purpose to serve, our purpose to make a difference, our purpose to add value through whatever it is that we were doing. So these were the three major takeaways for me, and I cannot be thankful enough for what I got at that time.
Yeah.
Because that's the foundation of everything we do.
Yeah. So at what point, in the beginning, and this is the last of, the journey before we get to some spiritual questions that we want to address for the youth. You said that, when you feel that passionate, there comes a time where your loved ones, there is acceptance, and then there is endorsement.
That's right.
And,
That's
so on
right.
and so forth. At what point did that happen with your family?
Yeah, it took a while. About 12 to 13 years.
Wow.
I was to visit them. They were very loving. Family, my parents, amazing. Such amazing people. So affectionate. And which is why in our relationships, we shouldn't allow our differences and ideologies, differences of what we do to make our relationship and affection sour. They didn't allow what I was doing and disagreement with what I was doing to bring sourness in our love for each other. My mom, amazing lady again. Even to date, it's been 26, now the 27th year for me in the ashram, in my monk life. It's amazing, even to date. My mom will not eat a mango before she sends a box of mangoes for me.
Oh, sweet.
For the 27 years of I've been here, she will never have her mango before she makes sure that she sends a mango and I have tasted the mango she sent first. So, wow.
It's love.
Wow. That's love.
Love.
That's love. So they are such amazing people. But you can imagine how hard it is. My sister's married, now they're alone by themselves. My father got Parkinson's disease at a point he was bedridden. It was just my mom and my grandma taking care of him.
Wow.
No man at home. No man at home. Financial resources, thankfully, they were not too much of a struggle. But yet, when you have a patient at home who needs resources, could be a slight struggle. They never bothered me. Never, unless it was a dire emergency, they would never bother me. So I really admire, respect, and I'm so grateful to my parents. People see the side of me going around and being on television, going around the place, speaking to the United Nations, doing all the big stuff that everybody aspires to do. They don't see that behind everything that everybody is doing, whatever they're doing in the world, the sacrifices that people have made, the unsung heroes behind the story. You know, I can stand up there and take all the credit. Bloody, what's the big deal? I can come and speak and take the credit. But these guys, my parents, my sister, my family, the hell that they had to go through, struggling at a point in time when my dad was bedridden, to take him to the hospital, to put him in the vehicle, to take him. How do you bring him down from the house? There's no man at home.
Yeah.
It's a struggle. They did all of that stuff.
How did you, when this was happening, right, and you knew that there was suffering?
I knew.
And suffering is such a large part of what you teach also in a lot of
Yes.
ways, and
Yes.
how to kind of cope. How did you cope, and
Yes.
how was that process? You know, like, did you feel any kind of like guilt or remorse that I'm not there at a time?
100% yes. Being a monk doesn't mean you don't feel guilt.
Yeah.
Being a monk only means how you process that guilt and do what you're meant to do. Greatness is not about not feeling those emotions. You only walk the path of greatness and try and evolve yourself by how you process what you go through. So it would be completely unrealistic and a big lie to say that I didn't feel the guilt that I wasn't there for my dad. So then I thought, let me see what I could do from here. So that's when then, of course, I looked at the best doctors who would never step out of Mumbai. But because they knew me the best in the country, we got him to go to my parents' homes, change the whole course of medication. My father actually started feeling better, came out of bed for at least for a short while, he was fine. So it's no point just saying, okay, I feel guilty, what can I do about it? So I acted upon it, right?
Yeah.
Now, having said that, it's not that they had completely accepted it all even then, because I was still away.
Yeah.
They're still struggling. They still have their pain, they still have their suffering, they still have what they have to go through. And more than the disease and more than the resources and all of that, it's just the pain of your son being away.
Yeah.
They don't care. If I didn't give them enough money for their treatment, I don't think they would have cared that much. As much as he's not with us. So then I remember, this is the year my father left, 2009. That's about 13 years after I came to the ashram. That's the year I would say, closer to that time my mother was, after my father left, my mother said, from the day one that you left, she said, I thought you made the right decision. Imagine for a mom to say that.
Yeah.
And I said, Mom, how do you even say that?
I was 21.
I was 21, and how? She said, I trusted that you would listen to your calling. She said, and I was so glad that you didn't just become a part of the routine society that everybody just has to conform to whatever else they were doing. And you followed your heart. She said, having said that, It does not dismiss or discount the pain I've gone through as a mother. She said that to me very clearly. In the year 2009, when my dad passed away, that year, just a couple of months before, that story is viral. It's on all over the place. I won't share that story again. And it's in the book too, Energize Your Mind, the book I wrote, very detailed, great detail I've written that story. That year, I remember, my father was really wholehearted. I was meant to travel to London for my lecture tour, and my dad said to me, would you bring me all the recordings of your lectures? For the first time, he said that to me.
Wow.
Having tears in my eyes would be an understatement then. I felt like I had received so many accolades and appreciations from so many people. My dad saying, can you bring those lecture recordings for me? And the rest of the story is in the book, I've written it. That was when there was acceptance, slowly yet steadily. And not just acceptance, from acceptance to wholehearted acceptance, from wholehearted acceptance to support, from support to wholehearted support, and from wholehearted support to just like one on purpose now. So today my mom is like, my mom said to me, this was so kind of her again, she said to me, look, if I'm really ill and I'm on my deathbed, I know how busy you are, right? Just make sure, because she also follows all the spirituality that I do now. But she said, just make sure that the right kind of spiritual people are around me so that I pass away in the right consciousness. I would be happy if you're around me, but I know how busy you are, and if it just doesn't happen to be, just can't make it there, just make sure that the right people are around me so I pass in the right consciousness. So from where it was to where it is today, and which is why for everybody watching, I want to say this, it takes a while, guys. When it comes to listening to your voice, it takes a while for acceptance, for support. And while you follow your journey, you follow your path, be very honest, be very genuine, stick to it. Don't make compromises. And while doing that, don't be harsh to your family. Don't be harsh. You don't have to be harsh to follow what you say. You can still be loving. You can still be kind. You can still be very hospitable. Just do that. It just takes a little while for them to understand your viewpoints. And when you start actually getting successful a little bit in the material sense, then they see the point of it all. Then they see the point of it all.
Thank you for sharing.
No, thank you.
You've also written Energize Your Mind recently. And I know that there's a lot of personal information like you just revealed in that. What was your thought process in terms of, because you make these videos, you talk spiritually. What was your purpose of having this in this book?
Correct. I think a lot of us in the world out there are struggling with our mind.
Correct.
Struggling with our emotions and feelings. Imagine somebody having a heartbreak and just not knowing what to do with that. Imagine someone going through intense depression. Imagine someone going through immense guilt. Imagine somebody having received such flack and criticism from the boss and going back home and not knowing how to process that feeling. Right? Because there's a problem. Confidentiality is an issue. You talk to somebody, it becomes a talk of the town sometimes, gossip. In your social circles, people start gossiping when you become vulnerable. So I thought it's very important to help people deal with their mind, their feeling, their thoughts, their emotions, their mental chatter. That was the purpose in writing the book. That I'm more of a understanding friend than of a guiding monk. Right? Now, in order to do that, I had to step down from that role of a guiding monk to become a understanding friend. And in order to become an understanding friend, the first thing you have to do is you have to become vulnerable by sharing all your own weaknesses.
So what would you like to say about love and heartbreak in that context?
I think we live in a world today where everything's very quick to form and everything's very quick to break. We live in a world of instant gratification. We live in a world where we don't have patience to stand in a queue to buy something because we just order it online. We live in a world where I can't wait for a coffee to get ready because I can go and put it in a slot machine and get a cup of coffee. There's no patience. And it's not an issue with youngsters or older people, it's a generational issue. It's an issue, technology has added so much value to our lives, but it's also taken away things from us. A virtue is a part of you and it applies to every aspect of your life. A virtue is agnostic. It applies to any aspect of your life, positive, negative, both. You know? So I see a lot of times that things like, it's like love at first sight and divorce at first fight. Break up at first fight. Finished. Before marriage, it's like roses are red and the sky is blue, you're my sweetheart, I love you kind of stuff. And after a while, it's roses are dead and I am blue, you're my headache, I'll kill you. You can imagine. There's no, patience to work on it.
Yeah.
When you grow a plant, it takes patience. To sow the seed, you have to nurture it, you have to use the right kind of fertilizers, you have to water it before it starts bearing fruits or flowers. A relationship is like a plant. Can't expect it to happen overnight. Can't expect it to happen in 6 months or 8 months or 10 months. It's a journey. And it takes a while for a bonding to form. It takes a while for that respect to develop. The connection of your soulmate, is not about some physical stuff. Physical stuff is a consequence of that being a soulmate. It's not the purpose of being a soulmate.
Yeah.
But over a period of time, believe me, the heart starts yearning for companionship.
What is a soulmate? Who is a soulmate?
What questions to a monk?
Just winging it at this point.
What is a soulmate? Who is a soulmate? Soulmates are those where you find these virtues existent. Number one, at least the journey of exploring if this is my soulmate begins when you see this.
Yeah.
Not just the euphoria of the physical attraction. Oh, this is beautiful, he's handsome. Look at his biceps, look at her looks. No, that's not what, it's all the initial and that's okay. But that's what it's come down to. How much money do you earn? Where do you live? How much freedom do you give me? How do you give me my space? Am I meant to live with your family or not? Are we going to have our own space? Are you going to allow me to do what I want? This is the beginning of a conversation where soulmate. How do you find a soulmate when this is the beginning of a conversation?
Yeah.
So when you're talking about a soulmate, respect, consideration, adjustment, sacrifices, compromise, when you see somebody making you feel more important than seeking importance, you know that this man has something or this lady has something that is very different from others. Everybody wants to feel important. But when they make you feel important and valued, when they make you feel appreciated, you know that there's something in this individual that others don't. Possible to at least see, this is my soulmate.
Yeah.
And then, the second thing is resonance. Resonance in the heart. The heart connects. It's not a formula. These are things that you can see as a formula. If you tell me I can give you a talk on why I chose this path, but it still won't really summarize and succinctly be able to explain to you why I did it, what I did. It's something that resonated deep within my soul. So yes, there are certain things that we should be looking for externally. We should also be listening to that voice. Once we find them, those things that we value a lot, we should be listening to that voice inside to see how it resonates with us. बाहर से तो मिल गया कि ये बंदा सही है, बंदी सही है. They have good values in a relationship. But now it's a question of inner compatibility, the soul compatibility. It takes a while before we feel that. And once you feel it, you know this is the person.
Wow.
And even after you find that person, it's not that there won't be differences.
Yeah,
All that journey still continues. But because it's a soulmate and because it's such commitment and dedication, you're willing to take it in your stride and work on it and move on.
Yeah.
Like my path.
Yeah.
No divorce yet.
Yeah.
Still going. Good relationship. I'm in a happy relationship. Very happy relationship.
And the last question for spirituality for the youth. How does the youth incorporate spirituality in this busy life
Right.
and not feel like it's mundane or boring
Right.
or draining.
Correct. At my funeral, when I die, nobody's going to say that I was a star. Nobody's going to say that I had a big house or a big fancy cars or this. Nobody's going to say that. What people will talk about was how I was as a human being. And what people are going to talk about is how I lived my life like a human being. There in the grave, nothing matters. But we run around so much. I must say this is my favorite. There was a great shair called Bashar. In Hindi, he said something very interesting. He said, उन्हें कामयाबी में सुकून नजर आया, सक्सेस में पीस. उन्हें कामयाबी में सुकून नजर आया तो वो भागते गए कामयाब होने के लिए. हमें सुकून में कामयाबी नजर आई. We found success in peace. उन्हें कामयाबी में सुकून नजर आया तो वो भागते गए. हमें सुकून में कामयाबी नजर आई तो हम ठहर गए. इन सब चीजों के पीछे तू क्या कर रहा है बशर? इतना तो जीना भी नहीं है जितना तू मर रहा है बशर.
Wow.
How much running and aggression, hustling is the word today.
Hustle.
Hustling to get there. And one day, people won't talk about it all. What people will talk about is how you lived your life. So I'm not against hustling. Obviously not. I talk about how to achieve in many of my seminars and corporate workshops. I talk about how to achieve those numbers and get up there. I'm not against that. I'm saying while you hustle, while you do that, do not compromise with those aspects of life that mean the most to living. What you earn gives you a standard of living. How you live enhances your standard of life. And making a living and making a life are two different things.
Yeah.
Two different things. You need to live your life, not just make a living. And which is precisely why I know it's a busy life. We know it's a very competitive world. We know that we are all in a massive rat race. And there are big rats out there.
Yeah.
So massive rat race with big rats competing against big rats. What do you do to incorporate a little bit of spirituality? Number one, at least understand that we need to prioritize other things as well. I may or may not have the time right now, but I live in awareness as I need to as soon as I have the time.
Yeah.
That awareness needs to be cultivated. Number two is watch all the content you consume. Whether it's your online content, whether it's the books you read, the movies you watch, choose content that will add some spiritual value in the busy life that you're leading. Have your entertainment, no doubt. Have your entertainment. But also choose that content which doesn't pull you down, which lifts you up.
Yeah.
Number three is at least have one individual who prioritizes spirituality as your friend too. May not be the closest friend, but just that accountability partner to remind you, to give you that reminder. Right? Number four is just start living a little bit in mindfulness. And living in mindfulness, I don't even mean like meditate or anything at the moment. I just requesting everybody who's watching, all the youngsters who are watching, just do one thing, if you can. One meal a day, just no talking, no phone, no nothing. Just eat. And what you're doing by eating is just be present, that's it. Just be present. Relish your food, just be completely there. What you're doing is you're tapping into the power of now. And number five, we've come up with an app called Monkeyfy, along with Energize Your Mind, which is all about this. To enter into that space of calm, to enter into that space of meditation, to enter into the people having trouble sleeping. How do you just calm down, unwind on a busy day? Take 5 minutes off. 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes is not too much to ask, to be honest. In 24 hours, if I can just dedicate 10 minutes to my own life, 15 minutes to my own life, isn't that too much to ask?
Amazing. Thank you so
much.
much.
Thank you very much.
I have another segment now.
Sure.
Things about me you can't find on Google. What's your favorite dish?
Dal chawal.
Do you listen to music?
Yes, I do.
Who's your favorite singer?
Arijit Singh in Bollywood.
Any character from a movie or book that has greatly influenced you?
The character from a movie that has influenced my life a lot is Simba in Lion King.
Oh,
Where there's a
yeah.
dialogue between his father Mufasa and he says, "Just remember who you are."
Yeah.
Love that one.
Yeah. What's your real name before monkhood?
Doesn't matter.
What's the last thing you do before you sleep?
Practice gratitude and just go through all the things of the day and be grateful for them.
And if you could go back in time and change one thing, what would it be?
Having said sorry to my dad when I was meant to say sorry.
And what is something you miss about your older life?
Nothing. Nothing.
Okay, now we have an old image of you, and you have to tell us what was going on in that at that particular time. This is the image. What was the context?
This was a talk that my Guru Radhanath Swami was giving at the Bombay Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
And I was there. I love to listen to him. So because of my busy schedules and I go travel a lot, so the recent past, I don't get to listen to him all that much. So I had gone to the Bombay Stock Exchange. I had an evening free. I'd gone to listen to his talk. And it had been a while that we hadn't seen each other in person. And so this is the first time he saw me after a while and I saw him after a while. And then he just called me and I went there. And he gave me a tight hug. And then that's the picture that was taken there.
Yeah.
That's right.
But this.
This picture was all of my monk friends. This is in a beautiful holy place near Kolkata called Mayapur.
Yeah.
We were all on a spiritual pilgrimage.
Yeah.
And we were on a boat ride in the river Ganga. So this is on a boat.
Yeah.
And we were all chatting and laughing. And they had something to eat, which I can't remember what it was. And they brought it out in the middle of the conversation as we were laughing. And I just pulled it out of their hand. I just bit into it. That's the context behind that.
The last one.
Oh, yeah. Oh. This was a photograph. Man, I was half the size that I was then. That's definitely the context of that. I used to go to VJTI, the college VJTI, to give talks to the students in the dormitory.
Yeah.
Every week I would go to a dormitory room and sit with the students and help them with their questions and some spirituality, add some spirituality to their life. And I would sing.
Yeah.
Sing some spiritual songs and I learned a little bit of the beats of the mridanga drum.
Yeah.
And so that's the picture. I'm playing and singing a little bit.
Amazing. So there is a last question segment, but I just feel it's almost wrong to ask a particular question. So I'm just going to do this and ask you, what will your closing thoughts be? You know that there are a lot of young people watching.
Yes.
So what would you like to say as a final note?
The one thing I would like to say as a concluding thing is, our life is a cumulative sum total. The experience of our life is a cumulative sum total of the choices we make.
Yeah.
So make conscious choices.
Yeah.
Don't make choices in the autopilot mode.
Correct.
I eat this, I do this, I get into relations. You don't think, you don't deliberate, you don't make conscious choices. And then there's so much room for regret later. So my only thing is, before making your choices, make conscious, deliberated, thoughtful choices. And don't rush into something. And then we can define the experience a little better.
Yeah, amazing. That's
Thank
so
you.
helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Karishma.
I could go on listening to you.
Oh,
and
you were very kind.
Yeah. But it's been amazing and
Thank you so much.
such an honor. Thank you.
Pleasure and honor is all mine.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Karishma.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon. Thank you all for being the best community, and I'll see you soon.
So as a 20-year-old, I tell you, the one thing you can do is take risks. Which I wasn't at that point. You know, it was not part of my DNA to go do a startup or anything. It wasn't even there as a consideration. So here, and even like what you've done, for example, starting this, right? I mean, it's something different. It's not a run-of-the-mill career choice, right?
Yeah.
And so I think as a 20-year-old, you have nothing to lose. You have everything to gain. And, go out there and go do what you think you want to do and go take chances.